Hey, folks, a content warning here. We are going to be talking about death and dying, specifically death of parents and grief. So if that's something you have a hard time with, feel
free to skip it.
Yeah, feel free to skip it.
But I will say that you might not want to skip it because we are going to be talking about death, dying, and grief in a really therapeutic and healing way.
It's true.
Not in a ripping out your guts way, in a putting them back together way.
So if you want to get your guts put back together.
Yes. So feel free to skip it, but you might be happier if you don't. It's up to you. Only you know you.
Exactly. So thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
Hey, folks, and welcome to Hey Adora, your queer She-Ra podcast. I'm Force Captain Meph, they, them.
And I am Princess Jenny, she,
and
her.
And today we are discussing the episode that continues to rip out my heart. We're talking about the Coronation.
First episode of season 4.
First episode of season 4, the season that continues to rip out my heart.
I do not find this to be a heart-ripping out episode. I find this to be a very cathartic, therapeutic, and healing episode.
Oh.
Speaking as someone with a dead mom.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking a lot about, grief and death and dying and
the processing thereof.
And the processing thereof, and also singing unicorns. So, The Coronation is the first episode of the 4th season. It was written by Laura Shriebney, storyboarded by Angella Kim, Sharon Sun, and Sam Szymanski, and directed by Dee Woolman, Diane Huh, and Kiki Manrique.
Kiki Manrique is a great name.
Kiki Manrique is a great name. Jenny, this is so sad.
I find it to be extremely uplifting and cathartic.
Yes.
But we're all entitled, obviously, to our emotional responses. Yes, it is
it's sad.
It's the good kind of sad.
Yeah, it does really move. It really has a really good kind of movement through emotion and catharsis. Yeah.
It's the therapeutic kind of sad. Can I tell you a crazy fact?
Yes.
Can't call it a fun fact.
Cannot call it a fun fact, but it's a fact.
So obviously, each season drops all at once of this show. But this is the first episode of the season. So this episode dropped 5 weeks after my mom died.
Oh, wow.
So I have a really special relationship with this episode. But I did not find this episode to be a bummer at all. I found it very healing. I enjoyed it. Like in such a way as that word has any meaning.
Yeah.
In context, I found it helpful. And I was, right on the same page with Glimmer. I knew right away what they were doing. I was like, I see you guys. I see the point you're making.
Yeah.
And even though several of the characters were acting a bit out of character in the sense that, I know you guys are not all this emotionally tone deaf. It was an important point that they were going out of their way to make.
Yeah.
About, this is not how you handle grief. This is how you handle grief.
And, I'm definitely going to get into that, too, because a lot of the times that is how the people that surround you handle your grief.
Yeah, and I was very lucky that nobody tried to do that to me. I have wonderful friends. As you know, you're one of them. And, I have a wonderful community in Brooklyn. I have a great synagogue. Right, yeah. Extreme hippies are usually good with emotions. Sure. And, I talked about my mom a lot in the days leading up to her death. She was in hospice for a week. So, I was by her side every day for a week. And she passed very peacefully. There was no pain. And then, in the weeks following, I was just, I got to write an obituary for her hometown newspaper, for her college alumni association, for my synagogue, for her synagogue. I got to talk about her a lot. And so many people loved her. All my old friends from high school, just, I really got to honor her memory.
She was a queen.
She was a queen. Yeah. And it was so therapeutic for me. And that, keeping her memory alive always makes me feel good. Even if, I have tears in my eyes, it's with a smile, and it does make me sad sometimes that she never got to see the podcast come into existence because she was always like my number one cheerleader. She thought everything I did was amazing and fantastic.
Aww.
And, you know, she obviously, you can tell I'm an only child, but, you know, she really thought whatever I did was great because I was the one doing it. She made me feel like whatever I did was going to be great, you know, and not in a way that like some sort of like false narrative of like, well, my child is perfect, but just like, no, you're you have great ideas. If you have an idea, you know, like you have to see it through, but it'll be great. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to enjoy it. And that will make it great. And, you know, like nobody else in the world could make me feel like that. And not to be overly maudlin, but I remember when I was around 3 years old and I was like starting to understand death. I think most little kids think about their own death. But I never did because I was like, well, I'll be dead. I won't care, you know, whatever. But I thought about someday my mom will die and then I will be truly alone because nobody else is ever going to love me like my mama loves me. And, you know, to some extent, I hate to say it. I still think that's true. Nobody can love you like your mom loves you if you have a great mom, which Glimmer does, and which I did. But if you're lucky and if their mom does their job, that love will stay with you forever.
And you'll have your friends there for you as well.
Yes.
Just like Glimmer does.
Exactly. And if your friends will let you, you know, talk about her, then, and they remember her as well, then that love stays kindled and stays fresh, you know, when they reflect it back, you know, in the relationships of the people who are still with you. It's a good way to remember that that love never leaves you, really.
Jenny, that is such a wonderful way to like personalize and also set up the episode. Thank you. Do we want to?
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Do we want to start with Glimmer and her new clothes?
Yes. Yes. Let's start with Glimmer and her new clothes.
So the establishing shot kind of pans through Bright Moon, and then we get into Glimmer's room, and her old outfit is folded up. And so the first shot we see in Glimmer's room is her old outfit is folded up on her like cushy princess window thingy. And
that little bay window.
I love the bay window.
Me too.
Like with the organic shapes, and it's great. It's and
everything's kind of messy, like typical Glimmer's room. Cabinet doors are open.
But the cabinet,
just another day, right?
Right, but we go into the cabinet doors, and her boots are there. Her old boots are there, and then we show Glimmer, and she's got new clothes. She's got new hair, and she's wearing her mom's earring.
Yes.
So,
and she also looks physically a little bit different in addition to the fact that like her hairstyle is different. She looks older.
Yes.
And part of it is because she looks a little thinner, like her neck looks longer. And again, this is just from personal experience, I wonder if she might have experienced something like I did. She might have had some severe appetite loss after her mom's death.
I was thinking that as well. That's kind of what I took away from this. And also like she doesn't have the baby face anymore either.
Yeah. I mean, I would not have believed this if it hadn't happened to me, but I experienced dramatic appetite loss for almost a year after my mom died. I could barely eat.
Yeah, it's like a really big part of grief. So
yeah, that can happen. I
completely agree with you. Absolutely. That's what I thought as well.
Yeah. And this is still very fresh, so I completely believe that could have happened to Glimmer.
Fresh. This is probably happening within the first weeks. Like,
yeah. I mean, they can't be without a leader for long. So this has to be within, I agree with you, within the first weeks after the last episode. I do like her new hair.
I do too.
She's got 2 epaulets on her shoulders now instead of just one. I know the word epaulette.
I'm glad.
Because of all of the fashion issues we have had on this show. That's the decorative shoulder piece that is particular often to a military uniform, but not exclusively. And she's got her little Bright Moon gem that used to be attached to her shirt. It's now just kind of hovering on her collarbone. And she now only has 1 glove instead of 2, but it goes much higher up her arm. And as you said, she has her mom's earring.
And it goes up, it's on the opposite arm of Catra's extended glove, isn't it? Right?
Interesting.
I believe it is.
That makes sense because there is in this episode a ton of mirroring between Catra and Glimmer.
Yeah, and in fact, this season has a ton of mirroring about Catra and Glimmer.
Yeah. So that would make sense if it was opposite arm. So we see Glimmer in her new outfit. She looks herself in the mirror. She brushes her hair and sighs. And she has this one moment to herself before Auntie Casta bursts in importantly. We need you in the war room right away.
Oh, Auntie Casta.
She means well.
She does mean well. So, of course,
there's no time to waste. You must make a decision.
And, Adora's, they're here for you. We're here for you. And Glimmer says,
what is it? What is this serious decision?
Is it? It's a cake. It's a cake.
It's a giant, shiny cake with an ornamental Glimmer kicking Hordak's ass cake
That
topper.
is my absolute favorite part, is that because we've never actually seen Glimmer fight Hordak. This Glimmer with glitter fist punching a weakened Hordak is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it makes a great cake topper.
It really does make a great cake topper.
And Aunt Casta makes it all very official. She makes basically a proclamation. The queen has spoken. At the coronation, there shall be ice cream cake.
Because we love a good misdirect here on this show.
Yes. So everyone's laughing. It's a great little moment. Glimmer's not laughing, but she does manage to smile for one beat. Mm-hmm. And then she looks kind of sad.
Yep. And then we have a new intro.
Yes, we do.
So we're not just going to credits through this because we have a new intro. So
the whole intro is not new.
The whole intro isn't new. Our heroes.
The first half is the same.
We still have our princesses princessing about. We have Mermista. We have the whole.
Yes, the princess parade is the same.
But then we get to the Horde, and the Horde intro is completely different.
So previously, the Horde side of the credits was we've got the powerhouse Polycule and Scorpia all in a row. And Scorpia is smiling and looking fierce. And Lonnie and Rogelio are kind of looking tough, but somewhat indifferent. And Kyle kind of always looks scared. And then we pan up to Catra, who, she's got her hot smirk, claws out, and she's framed between Shadow Weaver and Hordak.
Right.
And then at the end, Roundup, Entrapta is still with the rebellion.
So in the new version, we pan up to Scorpia is central. She's the largest central image here. And she's very, very sad looking. And off to her right, we have the powerhouse Polycule looking in 3 separate directions. So we have Kyle holding his helmet and looking scared, at Scorpia. Kind of in the direction of Scorpia. Lonnie is looking over her shoulder in a quarter shot at Scorpia. And Rogelio is in full profile looking to the right.
And they all look kind of lost.
They all look kind of lost. So after we pan up from Scorpia, so we have Scorpia, and on the right of Scorpia, we have the powerhouse Polycule. On the left of Scorpia, we have Double Trouble, who's in half shadow with their yellow eyes glowing. And then we kind of have this little nook between the figure that is on the far left and Double Trouble, and that is Entrapta with her brand new mask on, but we don't know that's Entrapta until we get later into the season. And so going up from there, the larger figure that we see is Hordak, and we see Hordak's elbow. So we're going to kind of jump right across to the right, and then we're going to focus back to the middle. So on the far right, we have this Hordak kind of looking dude. Who is it? It's Horde Prime, right? We all know that. With green highlights and stars. Stars? What are stars? Well, we learn what stars are too, behind him. And now we have new Catra. So Catra is centered in all of these. Catra is the center.
Catra's position is the same as before.
Exactly. Because she is the central antagonist, right? So, and she's in her new costume, which we'll talk about later, looking really mean.
I looked really hard at the old versus the new credits, and I'm 99% sure that her expression is the same in both.
Okay, so she does in her expression, what she does is she does the Kubrick stare, which little tiny mini Professor Smartbrain moment. The Kubrick stare is something that was kind of found in Stanley Kubrick movies, where the positioning of the head is the chin is down and the eyes are tilted up. So it looks like you're a mean, crazy person.
It's very effective.
And then she lifts her head up, snaps her head up, and extends her claws. Just like she does.
Yeah.
So
it's
fucking cool. And then we get to the new hero splash scene where we have Mara instead of Queen Angie in the middle upper left, and some sort of like fairy person in the left corner where Entrapta usually is. And who could that be? It's Flutterina, but
it's Flutterina, right. AKA Double Trouble. Yes. Yes. And Mara is, like a hologram version of herself. She's not a fully fleshed out human being.
Right. So we have all that and the song, and still we have the question of, are we going to win in the end? Oh, maybe. We don't know.
We got some new people. So we don't know what they're bringing to the table.
No idea what they're bringing to the table. So now
And Scorpia's very sad. Really so I think it depends who you ask.
I know. Scorpia's very sad. Catra's very mean looking. I don't know.
Yeah, But on the other hand, we've got Mara.
Yeah, and
we've got Double Trouble. We don't know what's going to happen.
Don't know what's going to happen, but
But all you can do is keep on keeping on. If you give up, you're definitely not going to win.
Definitely not. So now we're going to go back to Bright Moon again. And we finally kind of have Glimmer talking out what's going on with the best friend squad.
And we see some guests arriving from a distance.
We do. And okay, I have a question about this. So we see like all these people arriving from various parts of Etheria, right? So we see all these people from like different kingdoms and villages, and we know that because they're all kind of dressed differently or like are different, humanoid versions of creatures. So
right, and some of them we know, and so we know that they're from different places.
We see like some folks that we know from Plumeria and
like Selenius
and Thamor,
etc.
So we're seeing so now I have a question here. Okay, so we know that the different kingdoms, right, are like kingdoms, right? But then there are like these like independently run villages, right? Like Elberon and like Thamor. Like, are they like under the like protection of the kingdoms they're in proximity to? Is it like an Earth Kingdom thing, right? Or are they like
I don't know.
Independent
city-states?
It's
never made explicitly clear.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I need to know that level of detail.
Sure. I mean, it's just kind of a little fun thought exercise thing.
Yeah, it could be an Earth Kingdom type situation, like you're talking about the world of Avatar and Legend of Korra, I assume. Yeah, it could be one of those, or it could be sort of a loose affiliation of independent communities where, like, if you get a new ruler, we'll all come to your party, and if we get a new ruler, you'll all come to our party. We're all friends here. Like, it could be one of those.
Right. We have, we give you wheat, and in return, you protect us with your military strength or something like that. But we are a sovereign nation. So.
Yeah. And, since you were bringing up this question, it sort of goes along with something that I had bulleted for basically the very end of the episode, the question of kingdoms in general.
Yes.
I just want to point out that, obviously we here and now in our, modern day worldview, we don't necessarily approve of kingdoms as a system of government, of royalty, but there was clearly no way for them to get around that. Princesses are in the title of the show. And also princesses and kingdoms and royalty are a very common trope, both in children's literature and in fantasy worlds in general. And so I personally, and this is just for me, I feel comfortable letting that exist without having to put too much real world implications on it as like a system of government. This is just a fantasy trope.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely just a fantasy trope. Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. But, it's also like a fun thing of like, okay, in this kind of worldview and like in this world building, like what's the deal?
Yeah. Like is Bright Moon really in charge of every little town in the vicinity?
Why does Bright Moon have queens, right? Whereas everyone else is a princess, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Everyone else is a princess forever.
Except for Bo.
In the very beginning, except for Bo, when we first meet Mermista in her introductory episode, someone mentions, I think it's Glimmer actually, who mentions that since Mermista's father retired, she's now in charge of Selenius. So there was once a king in Selenius, but now that he's retired and we never meet him, he's retired, he's not dead. There's never going to be a queen. She's just going to be a princess forever. You know, it's just because it's more fun to be a princess, basically.
I think so. Yeah. Also, I love the idea of the royalty retiring, and I actually have that. I want to bring that up a little bit later in the episode, but yeah, I definitely talk about royalty and retirement too.
Yeah. So these are the levels of details that personally I'm just not fussed about because it's less fun than other aspects of these tropes, and it's like, we only have 22 minutes.
Yeah, we only have 22 minutes, and it's a show that's really about characters, so whatever.
Yes,
everything else, else is just kind of, hanging for the characters. So,
yes, and speaking of the characters, Glimmer, as she's watching her guests arrive, she says, "I can't believe this is really my coronation day. Me, Queen Glimmer. It sounds so weird." And that's a perfect entryway for Bo to practice various ways of saying Queen Glimmer.
I know, I loved it.
And this is what we're all really here for.
Oh, yeah. Bo trying to
hear Bo say Queen Glimmer 100 different ways.
Glimmer! I love that.
Queen Glimmer.
He's like, yeah, no, that's going to take some getting used to. And then we have the first kind of, look at I never thought this would actually happen.
Yeah. And I also think it's very deliberate that Glimmer is framed by the Moonstone throughout this conversation. She's framed next to the Moonstone often.
Yes.
In this episode.
Yes.
Because the Moonstone represents Angella.
Right, exactly.
And no one is wanting to talk about her, but Glimmer is constantly thinking about her, so she keeps looking back at the Moonstone.
Yeah. And, I mean, it makes sense that Glimmer never thought this would happen. Her mother can't die.
Of course.
So, yeah. Sheesh.
Of course. And so Adora immediately jumps into overly upbeat mode.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Hey, don't worry. You got me and Bo beside you all the way. We'll make sure this day is perfect.
Right. Yep.
Which is one of her buzzwords for the episode.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Which is so, such a weird transition from the last episode where did not we learn that when things are perfect, they rarely are?
Yeah. That perfect is not a healthy human goal.
Yeah. But it also, this is, throughout the episode, we're going to see the different characters responding to their own grief about the situation, but also how their friend is grieving and how they can make things better. And
yes, and not knowing what they're supposed to do
and not knowing if they're supposed to make things better, because, that's also a weird part of grief and grieving. So,
yeah.
Adora is that friend right now, is the one that's trying to make sure everything is perfect. So Glimmer, doesn't, have to feel anything, so we can kind of move on and Glimmer's going to be okay.
Yeah. And I do think that is definitely an aspect, certainly, of American culture and Western culture in general, is to feel like you're supposed to do something about everything. Is that you can't just let feelings sit and exist. You have to do something about it.
Yeah,
and that's not always the answer.
That's not always the answer, and that's a really hard lesson to learn for a lot of folks. So,
yes, indeed.
So, yeah.
So, time for Auntie Casta to leap into action.
So, after Glimmer asks, she just kind of pushes it down and pushes through a little bit. And Adora, she says, "Do I look okay?" And Adora says, "Like a queen." And you could see that hit. That hits. And that's going to keep hitting. And then, of course, we have Auntie Casta coming in being like, "Oh, Auntie Casting around. There's so much to do, being a
party planner, time to attend to your guests, and attend to the official queenly coronation prep. Move it right along.
Yeah, and
as long as we keep to the schedule, there won't be any time to be sad, basically, is the vibe.
Well, yeah, and also, there's the vibe here that it's this is very similar to having a grieving child who has to take care of this. do their mother's, funeral. And like, there are things that you have to do while you are grieving. Like in a lot of different, situations, you're like, okay, well, I have to talk to the funeral director and I have to, do all of these other things and I have to write this. And there is often a person there reminding you that, yes, you have to do these things. And so we're also going to see kind of how Glimmer reacts and responds and moves with that as well, because that is not easy to do.
That is very true. But for whatever reason, I mean, you could be right, and there's probably multiple ways to interpret this. That's not the vibe I'm getting from Aunt Casta. Because if it were a question of someone has to talk to the funeral director, Aunt Casta could do that.
Sure.
But I feel like Aunt Casta is deliberately trying to keep Glimmer's mind off of anything sad by saying, oh, but look at all these happy, you're the queen now. It's time to do fun queen stuff. Look at all these official queen things we have to do. Sorry, I shouldn't be clapping my hands. That's not a podcast-friendly thing. But, it's like, I feel like she's using the party planning as a distraction from grief.
I can see that.
Rather than, these are the hard tasks that have to be done now, even though what you're saying is accurate.
I think it's a combination of the two. I think if we get the hard tasks, like, let's do these tasks so you won't have to think about it, but like, also they have to be done, right? Like, I think it could be a combination of the two.
Yeah, I think both of those things are at play.
I think so too. So we have,
So she leaves the room, and then Bo and Adora discuss how this must be hard for Glimmer.
Sure. I mean, the disconnect between like ascending the throne and holy shit, my mom is dead is like, wow.
Right. This is supposed to be a celebratory day for her, and how can you celebrate when your mom just died?
So because it's both, and so like
right, and like this day wouldn't be happening if Angella hadn't died.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a lot of cognitive dissonance.
It's a lot to deal with.
And Adora again is determined to make it a perfect day for Glimmer. All they have to do is just not mention her dead mom at all. And therefore, Glimmer just won't think about it.
We'll just make sure everything is perfect.
That's how that works, right?
Yeah, totally. Glimmer has no, object permanence. So as long as, right?
Right. If someone is sad and you just don't bring it up, then the sadness goes away.
Totally.
That's how that works.
That's how sadness works.
Yes, and my last note for this scene is, please note again that the brightly glowing moonstone is framed prominently throughout this scene, even after Glimmer leaves. The moonstone represents Angella even after she's gone.
Oh, Jenny. Oh, I loved that.
Thank you.
So, is this our walk and talk?
Oh, before the walk and talk, I realize it's not the next scene. It's not about the next scene. I have a bullet about, before we go to the next scene, let's talk about why Adora is so wrong about feelings and grief processing here.
Let's talk about why Adora is so wrong about feelings and grief processing.
I mean, that's kind of what the whole episode is about.
Sure.
But I just have a couple of little bullets. It's not going to take long.
No, let's do it, because I had some ideas too.
Okay, cool. Like, we all know that bad/sad feelings don't go away if you ignore or repress them. It's literally the opposite. Yeah. And so this is not a direct parallel. It's just something I thought of when I was thinking about the scene, is the graphic novel Mouse by Art Spiegelman. Spelled M-A-U-S, if anyone has not read that and wants to pick it up. It's a very, very powerful graphic novel about the Holocaust, written by the son of a Holocaust survivor. And he draws the Jews as mice and the Nazis as cats. And this is, a direct first-person account from a death camp survivor. And so a lot of what it's about is just the burden of witness. The person whose account this is witnessed horrible things and survived. And he passed what he witnessed on to his son. And, just hearing about it is a burden.
Yeah.
And struggling with, what do I do with this knowledge? And so, he ended up writing a book about it. And so that eases his burden to share it again with more people. And the opening scene of the second book shows him, and again, everyone is drawn as either a cat or a mouse. There are no human figures in this book. He draws himself sitting at his desk talking about these things that he's struggling with, the burden of witness, and you see like flies buzzing around him. And then in the final panel of that page, it zooms out and you see that he's sitting at his desk on top of a pile of bodies. And that represents how he feels about this project, is that that's the burden of having been sort of handed down this witness. Is that's, you know.
Yeah.
When you have to hand in someone else's feelings, or when you experience something directly, it's a, you know, feelings are a burden. And how do you ease that burden? You have to share it. And they fight a lot, Art and his father. It's not an easy relationship. And the father just wants someone, you know, ideally he'd go to therapy, but, you know, old people from the old world rarely go to therapy.
Right, yeah.
And one of the things he says when they're just frustrated with each other, the old man says, but I haven't with whom else to talk. You know, you need to talk about shit. Yeah. You can't just ignore it.
Yeah.
And again, like, for me, it absolutely helped for me to talk about my mom when I was grieving. It did not make it worse. It did not hurt. It made it better at every opportunity. Yeah. And Adora's going to learn that.
Adora's going to learn that.
Yeah.
But she has to go through she has to go through her own quest, her own quest of queens, her own ritual, which we learn about from Auntie Casta.
Yes. Now we can have our hallway walk and talk with Auntie Casta.
So Auntie Casta gives a little bit of exposition here, saying that, you know, so in order for everything to happen, the ceremony begins with the ritual quest, followed by Glimmer's first speech as queen, and then, most importantly, the grand ball. Woohoo! Another party. Because, you know, they're gonna, you know, sit Shiva and, you know, eat lox and bagels.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen here.
That's gonna happen here.
But luckily, as Adora says, they are great at quests.
They are great at quests. And we learn about the quest of the queens, which I think is fucking cool. I really liked this little part of it, too.
I think so, too. And at this early stage, even though it doesn't last, Glimmer gives Adora a little affectionate look when Adora says, oh, we're great at quests. She's like, aw, I know you're trying, buddy. I appreciate you.
Aw, sorry. Yes. Thanks.
You know, thanks, buddy.
Thanks there, buddy.
Yeah, and I found that very sweet.
And then we have Casta kind of talking about the, you know, what the quest of queens, what it is, in which Glimmer will forge her connection with the Moonstone, and we learn that the Moonstone's power has been balanced between her and Queen Angie.
Yes.
So
since Glimmer was born. But now,
with her absent,
which
is technically true.
Yes,
she is absent.
She is not going to continue to draw any power from the Moonstone.
Right, so Glimmer has to take the power of all of the power of the Moonstone and be responsible for it.
Yes. At which point, Bo hastily interjects to keep anyone else from directly referencing the fact that Queen Mom is absent.
Yep.
Even though we all know it.
Right.
Not a secret. Come on, guys.
And Bo is like,
yes,
let's go back and talk about that quest. How about that? We're great at quests. And
yes. And I'm a little bit disappointed in Auntie Casta, because even though everyone else in this scene is technically still a teenager, they might be like 20 at this point.
Yeah.
The timeline's a little hazy, but they are young.
Yeah.
But Auntie Casta is grown.
Yeah, she's a grown-ass lady.
She should be the one. She should not be, you know, cowing to the emotional anxiety of a group of college students, basically. She should be like, you know, this is my niece. Her parents are dead. We're going to honor them.
Right.
You know, that's how you do. But she just keels right over.
Well, she's also dealing with her own stuff, too, though.
I know. Yeah. I know. But I'm just saying, like, listen, my aunt is not perfect either. She voted for Giuliani twice in the 90s.
Yeah, that's not great.
Okay. But still, when my mom was dying and when she died, you know, it's like something kicks in when you are in charge of a child who is your family. You do whatever you have to do to be there for them. You know, my aunt was so there for me. And, you know, we've had our ups and downs. We fought a lot about politics when I was coming of age and she was an adult. And we both know that if we get into it about politics, we would tear each other apart. But we deliberately don't do that because we know we love each other.
Right.
And when we want to have, like, can you help me see your point of view talks, we have them occasionally and we always end with a hug. But when it comes to family, she always makes sure that I know she has my back.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I'm not going to get into the details of what she said to us, to me and my mom both, when my mom was on her deathbed, because you will cry forever. But, like, you know, she swore that she would always protect me and that she would always be there for me. And Casta has not really been there for Glimmer on that level. And I know she's capable of it. So I feel like she's going a little too far in service of the plot line.
Yeah, I see that. I agree. She's definitely not being she's definitely not being soft, right? And is like emotionally available.
Or strong.
Yeah.
You know, soft is strong in cases like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Like, listen, it's okay for you guys to all be a hot mess right now, but I'm the adult, I'm the mom figure, and I'm telling you that, you know, even though your mom's not here, we're going to honor her, and this is what we're going to do, and it's going to be okay.
But instead, she's, you know, she's exposition. She's the exposition character, though.
She's the exposition, but she's like wacky, slightly unhinged.
Because she's
party planner exposition.
She's wacky Auntie Casta. So
I know. But I feel like, you know, in absence of this particular plot line needing the wackiness, she could rise to the occasion better.
I would agree.
Yeah.
But regardless, we have wacky Auntie Casta, and she does continues to do the exposition. She does this cool like scroll conjure air sigil thing. That was cool. And she's, you know, trying to get all the stuff together. What about these flower arrangements? Do you like them?
She throws the sacred lantern at them. That's an important piece.
Throws the sacred lantern. The scrolls hit Bo in the face. Like, it's getting the flower arrangements going.
Yes, the dude from Plumeria has the flowers.
I know.
Yes.
Oh, our himbo Plumerian pal.
Yes, and then, as you said, she asks Glimmer, in the midst of all this relative chaos, what do you think about the flowers? And Glimmer says they're fine.
Yeah. And Casta.
But Casta takes from that, oh, you're right, they're terrible. And also, this dude is fine.
And he cries. Poor himbo.
Poor himbo's just doing his job.
He's just trying to do his job. Just himboing about, dude, this is great. I made these flowers. And then, oh man, I got fired. Oh, dude. Anyway, that's my himbo voice. Thanks.
It's good. So, you know, Glimmer, as she will, again, many times, tries to interject, but Casta just tells her not to worry about a thing.
Yeah.
In addition to being a powerful sorceress, I'm also a legendary party planner. This will be a coronation for the ages.
I love this little, like, tableau that they've put about, she's, like, framed by these two Plumerians just, like, paying homage to her, and she's surrounded by cakes. And Casta might not be doing the best job of doing emotional support, but she's fucking crushing it by being an incredible queen. She is
crushing the party planning aspect.
Fierce.
Yes, I love this little out of universe moment. It sort of reminded me of Seahawk when he bursts into song. Yeah. And, like, you know, instruments and flags appear out of nowhere. Like, all of a sudden, she's surrounded by this hall of towering cakes that are all taller than she is. They're just for that 1 second, they all appear, and it's like, ta-da!
I know, I loved it. I loved it.
So that was fun. But all of this has no effect on Glimmer. No. She's still melancholic, as she has the right to be.
Absolutely.
She's not in the mood to teleport them all out to the terrace. She just kind of smacks Casta's hand away and walks off. So they all walk out to the terrace.
And the terrace, it's another...
And what do they find on the terrace?
Oh my god, a fucking mess. So Frosta has been being the most ridiculous little sister ever and made this just... I can't even describe it. It is like...
It's just a massive ice sculpture of, like, Buff, Frosta, and Glimmer as Huntara-sized buddies.
They're like best ice sculpture buff pals, and it's just like, I love that Frosta is such that little kid. They're like, yeah, I think we should punch stuff and be huge. Like, I love that.
That little kid who sees themselves as like a buff giant.
And it's like all about strength, right? Like that's where she puts her emphasis, you know, her importance is in strength. So
and you still haven't seen Kipo in the Age of Wonder Beasts.
I haven't watched the full thing. What I saw I loved, but I
it's truly wonderful.
Yeah.
And the lead character is voiced by Karen Fukuhara, who is the voice of Glimmer. It's a wonderful, wonderful show. And so Kipo's best friend, Wolf, is also very small and diminutive, although I think they're probably roughly the same age. And so in her inner fantasy life, she pictures herself and Kipo as like buff giants.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they go on buff giant adventures together.
Yeah, I remember that. That was fun.
And so this kind of reminds me of that. It's very endearing, even though, of course, it's not helpful at this moment.
No.
And Glimmer even says this is going to be awful, but she still tries to be tactful.
Yeah.
And sort of redirect Frosta the way you do with kids. She says, I appreciate the idea, but I need someone for a very important job to greet the guests.
Which, according to Frosta, is be a bouncer?
Oh, you need a bouncer! I'm on it. Bouncer!
And she does these like ice fists.
Yes, and so that's her tagline for the rest of the episode. She yells at people and then says, bouncer! It's like her dream come
I know,
true,
I love
honestly.
it. She's got like these like ice Hulk fists, and then it's just like, it's awesome. And Glimmer's like, well, fine. Fine, kid, whatever.
Yeah. Glimmer just does not have the spoons for all of the stuff that people are asking of her right now. And then before she even has a chance to deal with that, Cast is back with another very important decision about party color schemes, which she has already clearly decided on.
Oh, definitely.
Yes. And then she's like, oh, isn't this fun? Soon you'll be making many important decisions, just like your mother. As Bo and Adora furiously gesture behind Glimmer's back for her to stop talking and not say that. Because again, we all know that if you just don't mention Glimmer's dead mom, Glimmer won't think about her dead mom, because that's how that works.
Everything will be fine. It will be perfect. It's perfect.
Everything's
be perfect. Fine.
Yes.
It's fine.
And Glimmer won't have to worry about anything.
Nope. But Casta...
It is kind of fun to watch Casta scramble around trying to take her foot out of her mouth.
I know, it is. And of course, Sandra Oh is just phenomenal. She could do anything. And she's...
Yeah, this is a very different kind of role for Sandra Oh. It's so easy to forget that it's her because she's so light and silly. And that is so not Sandra Oh.
She's so
in her usual
funny.
role.
Even when she's doing comedy, it's not silly. Like she usually does
this.
like satires or like darker comedies, but this is like
exactly.
She's fun. Yeah, like really
and usually
fun.
when Sandra Oh is doing comedy, it's mostly in her face, and you don't get that.
Yeah, it's true. It's
very different.
She's awesome,
and just the lightness. She usually just doesn't talk in this high of a register. It's a completely different voice.
Yeah, she does have a higher register as Auntie Casta. That's true.
So it's all very funny.
Yeah. Aw.
And so in this sort of hasty trying to backpedal and not say what she just said, she's like, floral arrangements, where's the florist? And Glimmer's like, you fired him. And so then, Aunt Cass is like, well, why don't you do the flowers, Glimmer? And Glimmer's like, Marmista, why don't you do the flowers? And then Perfuma completely falls apart and has a huge meltdown because no one thought to ask her to do the flowers.
I love the Perfuma meltdown. And I couldn't tell, but, as if, like, Mermista's like, flower arranging is my passion. And we can see later in the episode that she really loves flower arranging. But I also think part of her passion is pissing off Perfuma. So I think she got like a double whammy here of like getting to piss off Perfuma and also flower arranging.
I think my read on it, and I mean, this could go either way, was that she was being sarcastic and she was like, wow, flower arranging is my passion. How'd you know? But then she's like, this is pissing off Perfuma. So then she got into it because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then she found that she enjoyed it. But initially she's like, oh, fine, I'll do it.
No. I absolutely agree with you on that. Yes.
Yeah. But so it gets more and more funny as a little side piece. And now we get to talk about Swiftwind's Coronation.
Oh my God. Everyone here is such a fucking mess. So Swiftwind comes in.
So many divas.
This is a good time to talk about my song. So I will require a stage and some oats for my backup horse. And this is going into my one and only Professor Smart Brain moment.
Also, I have no idea what the topic is going to be.
As we can see here, that Swiftwind is a tough negotiator. And I wrote in my notes, I wonder what is in his rider. So this Professor Smart Brain moment
Interesting.
is a little bit about artist management and contract negotiation. We are going to talk about, I know.
Once again, a topic that I have no knowledge about.
We are going to talk about what is a rider. So.
It's the person on the back of the horse.
Yes, but not here. In fact, a rider is a set of requests or demands that a performer sets as a criteria for performance, and they're typically fulfilled by the hosting venue. So there are kind of two, and this is like, they're normally associated with like a comedian or a band, really like bands really do this, like comedians, all that stuff. So the two most common categories that are, in a rider are hospitality, which is kind of what it sounds like. I need bottles of water backstage in my room after the show. I need food, booze, towels, changing rooms, security, those sorts of things that you kind of want to get yourself ready for the show after you play, those sorts of things to make sure that, you are comfortable enough as an artist and you have what you need to be a body that can perform.
Yes.
The next thing that is on all riders is the technical part. So the technical rider includes the equipment that is needed, that the venue needs to provide, a stage plot, which is just a fancy way of saying a place where everything goes on stage. It's like a little map where you put stuff on stage. Lighting design, input list, which is a list of all of the stage connections, which is usually mics or amps that are going into the stage from the soundboard. So you have everything laid out. So, tech crew can plug stuff in. If you need particular instruments and associated gear. So a lot of the times it's usually large instruments that suck to travel with. So like piano or drum kits, like, just being like, I'm not traveling with a drum kit, have one set up for me, amps and speakers and cabs, crew, etc. So that's what a rider is.
It's all reasonable.
Yeah, totally reasonable.
And I've heard of artists, usually like top shelf artists, making really outlandish requests. Want a giant bowl of only blue M&Ms.
So Jenny, this is a really interesting thing that I'm about to bring up. So, as Jenny mentioned, many popular artists can make these very kind of extravagant demands, but they're not necessarily extravagant demands for the, express purpose of them being extravagant, which I will get to in a moment. Because I want to talk about my absolute favorite rider of all time that I've ever seen, and then I'll get into that.
Nice.
So
my
favorite rider of all time was by Grace Jones. So Grace Jones is a legendary pop artist, old school genderfucker, like model, actress, genius, queer icon of the ages, and has a legendary rider that includes, amongst other things, 6 bottles of Cristal, 4 bottles of French red wine, 4 bottles of French white wine, 2 sashimi plates for 8 people, and this is my absolute favorite part, 2 dozen oysters and an oyster knife. Because Grace Jones does her own shucking.
That's hot.
It literally says in the rider, so she can do her own shucking. She does not want her oysters shucked by anyone. She shucks.
That's really gay.
She shucks herself.
I want to have sex right now.
I mean, it's, yeah. Also, it's Grace Jones, so yeah.
That's awesome.
So I want to say that, and then we're going to go circle back around. So to speak to what you were saying about, the M&M's thing, that's a really famous one. And here's why it's on the rider. So Van Halen was the one that did the M&M's thing. And they specifically famously asked for a bowl of M&M's with all of the brown ones removed. Really specific request, right? So you're like, why the fuck? They're just diva rock stars. That's not why.
So why is why?
This is the awesome thing, and this is actually something that really super works because I've done it before in a past life. So they had this particular, very specific, odd request because they knew when they walked into the dressing room, if they saw that bowl of M&Ms with no brown ones, that their rider was read thoroughly enough and taken seriously. That means that
and if that wasn't done, then what else hadn't been done?
Including safety things. And this happened.
Right. I remember now.
Yeah, and they did that because they had an instance in an early show where their rider wasn't fulfilled for like safety and crew, and one of their crew members almost died because the stage collapsed.
Oh,
so
my
they
gosh.
actually, like, you put in these ridiculous requests. So
right. They added that almost as a safety feature.
Yeah, exactly. So if they know that the people that were fulfilling these quests were being fastidious enough so that they would take the other things seriously.
I get it now. That's actually really smart.
It's really smart. I love that.
Especially in light of the story about how someone's safety was put in jeopardy because people hadn't been reading the rider thoroughly. And so they put something in just to make sure people were reading the rider thoroughly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is really fun to do. I've done it. I've been in situations where we had the ability to have a rider read and fulfilled. And it was fun to put in the weird little things to make sure that they were doing it.
Yeah. So that reminds me of a test we took once in 5th grade. And I don't remember what class it was in, but it was like the whole point of the test is just to see how well you follow instructions. That's the only thing this test is about. And step number 1 was read through all the steps before you start. And it was like 3 pages of steps. And the final one was disregard everything. Don't do anything. Just do nothing. So if you read all the way through before you started, you wouldn't have to do anything.
Okay, I got it.
Right? So if you actually read through the whole thing, you were off the hook completely. There is no test.
But if you read number 1, it's like, put your name on the test.
Right. If you got sick of reading through and you're like, I'm just going to start, then you'd be doing it for hours before you got to the end and realized that you were fucked and that you didn't actually have to do any of that shit.
I would have been fucked.
I mean, that was the whole point. It was meant to try to trick you, to be like, see, I told you in step 1 to read all the way through.
And I would have been like, fuck you, test. You're not my real dad.
Exactly.
So that was my Professor Smart Brain moment on riders.
That's very interesting. I can't believe we got through all of that interesting information just from Swiftwind demanding oats for his backup horses.
There we go. It's just like...
By the way, where the hell was Swifty all last season?
Maybe he was making friends. Maybe he was starting it sounds like he was kind of starting a band.
He might have been. He might have been starting a band. He might have been starting an uprising in other places now that, he's come into his consciousness as a socialist equestrian.
Yeah, I love that.
Equine, not an equestrian, a socialist equine.
Yeah, he is an equine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's been out making some moves of his own.
So, but we're happy to see you again, Swifty.
Good times. We are happy he's back.
We love Swifty. We do. We are a pro Swiftwind podcast.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. But so he doesn't get a chance to have any of his rider conditions met because, boom, ice wall. Bouncer. But Adora still thinks everything's coming together really well.
It's perfect. Everything's perfect.
As Perfuma continues to have a meltdown in the background.
This is just like, everything on top of each other, completely overwhelming, like sensory input.
We're having this build-up of increasingly hectic, fast-paced little details all being thrown at Glimmer by everyone. I've got a bulleted list. I don't know if it even matters.
Let's go through it.
Okay, so we've got Bo looking through the endless scroll of instructions for the quest of queens and being confused by it. He doesn't know where to find the ceremonial robe that Glimmer needs to wear. And Glimmer says, well, we can all look together. And Adora jumps in and says, don't worry. The 2 of us will find it for you. Right. And then Aunt Casta comes over. She wants Glimmer to come to the dining room to pick a napkin folding technique. And then she immediately negs herself and says she should fire herself. And Glimmer's like, no, don't do that. And then a giant waterfall of seaweed splashes down over them because this is part of Mermista's floral arrangements.
Yeah, I love that it's part of her process.
Right. And then Casta storms off, and Adora turns the sword of protection into a mop.
I love this.
And says, it's okay. We'll handle everything. You go have fun.
I love that. Is like the most useful, like...
Yeah, I mean, it can literally be anything she can imagine.
Yes.
And I have some interesting thoughts on that later. We will circle back to that.
Of course you do. We all do, Jenny. We've all gone there.
Of course. I know. I'm not so unique on that one. And Glimmer's last line in here is like, fun. Right. And so as Glimmer's saying this, she charges up. So she's glowing like the moonstone. Mm-hmm. And she looks up at the moonstone with this uncertain, sad, regretful look on her face, and she walks away.
Yeah, it looks like she was maybe, like, thinking about teleporting and then just, like, couldn't.
That could be.
But, yeah, like, there was a whole thing there about, like, feeling, like, trying to pump up the energy, right? Because, I mean, like, that's what that was supposed to, like, telegraph.
Everyone's trying to really force Glimmer into a happy
right,
headspace.
And Glimmer tries to go along with it, but like her energy literally fizzles out.
She's not feeling it. She's not feeling it. And so my last bullet for this chunk is note the first big chunk of the episode ends with Glimmer alone. Because there's going to be a parallel for that later on. So I just wanted to make note of that. Because we are about to transition away from Bright Moon to a different place.
Is it the Fright Zone?
You know it's the Fright Zone.
We're in the Fright Zone.
Take us away,
We're in the Fright Zone, and Hordak is moping. We have some damage inspection from Catra.
Yes,
we see those were Adora's broken glowing cuffs, right? Is that when she picks up the cuffs? Do you remember?
Oh, that could be. I mean, I was just sort of my note is just like equipment is all fucked up, things are smashed, etc. Those could be Adora's.
I think they were Adora's broken handcuffs.
Yeah.
So we have, we have Catra going through junk, and meanwhile, Hordak is literally just like sitting in the broken portal moping. He's just like
pouting like a little bitch is what I have.
Yeah, let's go there. He's pouting like a little bitch, and Hordak is and Catra's like, hey, so we should maybe make some plans now.
Yeah, now is the time to make some moves. Our troops are just sitting around. What are we waiting for?
We have like a really good, this is a really good time for us to go do stuff.
Yeah. We need to talk about plans.
And Hordak is like, I'm a bitch.
And Hordak's like, plans? Your last plan was to set off the portal machine before it was ready. Do you remember how that ended?
And Catra, just blows him off and is like, sure, all right, it fucked up. But listen, the queen is gone and the rebellion is a mess, so we should go do something. And she has a really good point.
Yeah, and I'm like, I remember how that ended. You got exactly what you said you wanted, you dumb fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
You said at the outset that all you needed was a large enough window to get a signal through to Horde Prime.
Guess what?
Check. That happened.
Yeah.
Rebellion all fucked up. Check. That happened. Queen of the Rebel Alliance taken out. Fucking bonus points.
Check.
I mean, I'm not happy about it, but I'm saying Hordak has nothing to complain about.
Well, I mean, he does.
You giant fucking man baby. I mean, yeah, your equipment is smashed up, but how do you expect to make any gains without having any losses?
Right. Yeah.
Everything that he said he wanted to achieve has been achieved.
Well, except for the fact that he did, and I will extend a tiny bit of, empathy to him. He did kind of lose this, lab partner / girl he kind of liked. So,
That is true. But as far as he knows, Catra had nothing to do with that.
Right. No, he's just moping.
Right, but he's blaming Catra.
Right. Well, I mean, he's Hordak. He blames everybody for everything.
I know. I'm just mad.
You should be.
Obviously.
He sucks. But
I'm just so mad that he is, taking out all of his shit on Catra as always.
Yeah.
And of course, Catra, as always, is being sensible.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's pointing out the rebellion's in disarray. Now's our chance to gain the upper hand. And Hordak says, blah, blah, how are we going to do that when you couldn't even prevent the rebellion from infiltrating the Fright Zone?
Mm-hmm. And
then Catra falls back on blaming Entrapta for that, for letting the princesses in.
Right, which, okay, right, we know that.
Which,
that's not right. It's not true.
That's
but
not what really happened. But Hordak, again, freaks out, has another man-baby tantrum, and continues destroying his already destroyed lab even further.
Yeah, well,
stop tearing out load-bearing columns of rooms you're standing in, Hordak.
He's such a whatever. I just want to say that as, Catra brings up Entrapta, we have a really quick brief shot on the glowing first one's brooch of love and friendship that powers his exoskeleton. And Catra, it's kind of a point of view from Catra that, notices it. So... Yes.
I have that too. She is thinking some thoughts.
She is, because she's smart. Catra's wicked smart. So...
And I also have another note there that even though Hordak's first one's crystal and Shadow Weaver's little piece of the black garnet that was in her mask are two totally separate things, they do look very similar.
Oh, yeah.
They're the same color and roughly the same shape, and they fill very similar functions.
Yeah.
Like, this is my tiny piece of power that acts as a talisman for the person wearing it, granting extra power and strength.
Ooh, and Catra.
And Catra defeats both of them in a very similar way.
Catra knows how to find the small piece of vulnerability.
Yeah, the chink in the armor.
Yeah, because that's what Catra's strength is.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's funny because that little chink in the armor is the source of strength, but also the weakness.
Yeah. Oh, Jenny, that was so tasty.
So in a way, Catra's like, oh, I've seen this shit before.
Uh-huh. Ooh, and also, you know, from like the higher like metaphoric level of Catra.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
because it's not actually the same, but it functions in kind of the same way.
And it's just more of like, this is how Catra fights. Catra fights smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love that. Yum. It's delicious.
Yeah. So, yeah. So we have more of Hordak doing what he does. Blah, blah, blah. The only reason you're here instead of facing punishment for your failure, you know, is because whatever.
Horde Prime. No, the signal went through. So.
Oh, because the signal went through to Horde Prime.
Yeah. Grom.
And now get out.
He
does his Dawn Summers.
Yeah.
Get out.
I have that written here too. Yeah. Obviously. And but we see an awesome gay smirk and a plan. And this is my gayest moment. Number one is Catra and her gay smirk.
And we have a parting shot of Catra's face. Oh, yes, that's what you just said, her gay smirk. Because her expression goes from cold to gay smirk as that door is closing in on her. And it's very satisfying.
It's a classic Catra gay smirk move.
It is. And so that is the second chunk of the episode. So the first chunk of the episode ended with Glimmer alone, and the second chunk of the episode ends with Catra alone. So I feel like the parallel between the two of them is being set up right away. Yeah. Now we go back to Bright Moon, to Glimmer's bedroom.
And we see Glimmer's still out of juice.
She's alone in her room, looking sad and thoughtful. She's like gazing pensively at the little sparks of magic coming off her hands.
Which are just kind of like fizzling.
Yeah, she's like contemplating them. It doesn't seem like she's trying to do anything. Yeah. She's just sort of morosely contemplating.
It's like when you're like fidgeting or like you're flicking something or you're running like a pen through your fingers or something.
Yeah. Or like mindlessly scrolling through your phone, not really looking. And then Bo and Adora and Aunt Casta show up with the royal coronation robe that they finally found. And it occurred to me on my final viewing of this, when was the last time this robe was used? When is the last time they had a coronation?
Yes. Okay, I also have that too. I have like a whole like thing I want to talk about with that.
Because there's no way this robe fit Angie.
No.
It's huge.
Right, yeah.
Like, I think this would have been too big for Huntara, even.
Yeah, so, like, also, like, who was the queen before Angie? Was it, like, an immortal angel? Like, did they also retire? Does Glimmer have grandparents? What?
I mean, if your mom is immortal...
Right?
What are the long-term implications of that? I mean, she probably has grandparents on her father's side.
Sure, but, like, I'm talking about, like...
But, like, where did her immortal mother come from?
Did her parents retire to Boca with like the king of Selenius? Like, what is the...
There's truly no way for us to know.
But I do have this... As I was watching this, I came up with a really wacky theory, which probably has no basis other than the fact that I'm bringing it up. So,
I mean,
sure, okay. So I'm gonna pose this to people, and you're all gonna be like, "What?" And the people in Discord are gonna be like, "Meth, this is stupid," but I think it's fun. Okay,
I don't think anyone would say that.
Well, you should, because it's dumb. But okay. So there's like a fan theory out there that like Raz is Angella, and we're gonna talk about that in future episodes, and we've talked about it in past episodes. But I'm going to say that Raz is Glimmer's grandmother.
I like that idea.
Who retired to the woods.
I like that idea.
There's no basis. I have no basis for this, but I want Glimmer to have a grandma. You know, she needs a bubby. She does.
She does. I mean, Raz can be your bubby even if she's not literally your biological grandmother.
I mean, Raz is a bubby, like, you know, full stop.
Yeah. To the world.
Sure. Yeah. Possibly to the world. Yes, this is true.
Yeah. But I love that idea.
Yeah, but I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I mean, they're both immortal.
Right.
As far as we can
exactly.
tell. Raz and Angella.
Exactly. So instead of them being the same person, I'm going to say
I love that.
It's Glimmer's bubby.
I love that.
So
I'm on board for that.
So, because that would give some context, and that still wouldn't explain, why the robe was so huge. Because Raz is also tiny.
The robe is so huge. Well, I mean, old people shrink.
Sure, but that's
when they become old.
Sure, but that's a lot of shrink.
It's a very large robe. It has to be huge because otherwise it wouldn't be hilariously funny.
Right.
To have Glimmer standing there looking like she's in the center of a collapsed circus tent.
Yeah. I mean, it's
which is basically what it looks like.
Yeah, it's really, it's funny.
And to have them all smile and nod and try to pretend that it's not ridiculous.
Yeah, but, Casta does a little bit of, like, good aunting here, where she's like, I'm so proud of you.
She finally has her first serious moment. She says, oh, my little Glimmer, I'm so proud of you. I know you're going to make such a wonderful queen.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it kind of feels like she might be about to say, like, I know your parents would be so proud.
Right.
They're in your heart, like something to acknowledge that. But instead, she just has this complete tonal shift. And she goes, well, almost time for your quest. Give me a tick and this robe will fit like a dream. And she gives her a little nose boop.
I know. Oh, Auntie.
And it's cute. But again, it's like not very validating.
Right. But,
I know she's trying.
She is trying, and I love that Auntie Casta is like, also just a fiber artist on the side,
Yeah.
She's like,
gotta have a hobby.
She's like, I sew, I knit. Sometimes I make cosplays for the kids,
Sure,
I have a loom, it's just how she unwinds. It's her art. I love that.
Right.
Get that.
Yeah. And Glimmer's, trying to stay on course. She says, oh, of course, the quest we still don't know anything about, but it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Cast a spell will fix the robe. Bo has the lantern, and I'll have you guys by my side the whole way, right?
Right. And Bill's like, yeah, right. Dora, can we?
Hey, Dora, can I talk to you real quick?
Here. In
the hallway.
And Bo, of course, lost the lantern.
Yes. And by extension, he comes to the conclusion that he has doomed the entire kingdom.
Yeah,
because he can't find the lantern.
It's also like how Bo grieves too, though. Like Bo takes everybody else's energy. We actually see this later in the season. Bo takes people's emotions, and we've seen this before too, and just internalizes them completely. And it's all my fault.
Yeah. And it's easier to fixate on one detail that you can fix.
Yeah.
And Adora yells at him semi-hysterically to calm down. Has to be around here somewhere, right? This day is going to be perfect!
Yeah, and that's some like big Buffy and Pangs energy right there. Just like, we just have to find the lantern, and Glimmer will be none the wiser, and it has to be around here. It's like, she's just like loses it.
And we'll have Thanksgiving dinner, and it's going to be perfect!
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Good call. So Adora runs down the hall, looking for the lantern, and she sees Shadow Weaver walking freely down the hallway, though she is flanked by two guards.
Yep. Just like...
And Shadow Weaver proceeds to do the only thing she knows how to do when she knows two powerful women who are in any kind of caring relationship with each other, and she starts trying to drive a wedge between Adora and Glimmer, just like she did with Adora and Catra.
Because she's a horrible narcissist.
Yes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably am, but Shadow Weaver's mask is now fully fixed. And it's like, it looks like a new, like, it maybe was before, and I just didn't notice it, but because we have like a kind of a closer, like, close up on her face, but her mask is actually like, it's fixed, and there's no like kind of space for the jewel anymore. It almost looks like she has a new mask.
I wasn't paying attention to that, so I do not recall off the top of my head. But if you were paying attention, then I trust you.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I was paying attention to this shot because I'm like, oh, Shadow Weaver's mask doesn't have a crack down the front, and, you know, there's no hole where the gemstone shard should be.
Yeah, probably makes sense.
So, but, like, did that happen here? Maybe. Anyway.
Here in Bright Moon?
Did that happen
between the last episode and this episode?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, did they call the royal like mask maker to make her a new mask or something?
Probably.
Okay. Cool.
I did not pay attention to that detail. I have to be honest.
Okay. Well, it was just.
But I will trust you if you were paying attention.
Yeah, so.
It was probably something that had to get fixed at some point.
Right. Exactly. You know, you can't just.
They're like, if we're gonna let you be walking about Bright Moon, we can't have you scaring the children with your freaky ass cracked mask.
Right. You have to scare them with your regular ass mask. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. Shadow Weaver is just being a horrible person as she usually is. You know, trying to get in between two powerful women. Yeah.
Yes. So the only meaningful lines that I wrote down from this conversation was Shadow Weaver saying, "Please convey my best wishes to our new queen. I hope you two are still close. Power changes people."
Yep. And it's like, oh, cool. Thanks for like, you know, setting the fact that you are going to drive a wedge between them and laying out.
Yeah. And Adora says, "Glimmer's a good friend. She'll be a good queen too."
Yeah. And, you know, she's like, I hope for your sake, you're right. And it's like, okay, cool. So we're laying out the theme for the whole season.
I'm sure you do hope
Yeah,
that.
sure. You totally do. You're definitely not like seeing like somebody powerful that you can now manipulate. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, power changes people like you, right. Shadow Weaver.
I have a new one, and it's Micah's kid.
Yes, a new toy. Yes, basically Shadow Weaver has a new toy. That's exactly
she's really excited about that.
Yeah, fucked up. So I hope nothing will come of that.
I hope not. I hope everything goes smoothly.
Yes.
But so Frosta has been doing a great job as a bouncer, freezing anybody that's trying to sneak in, but she's running out of space to put people.
Right. Because all these people are trying to come in.
Including Seahawk.
Yes, we only see Seahawk, and he comedically is completely frozen in ice, but of course only his eyeballs can move. Yeah, so that's fun. And then we immediately on the heels of that have more comic relief with passive-aggressive Perfuma sneaking up huffily on Mermista, who is doing her unique floral decorations. Yep. It's art, and it's what Glimmer wants.
I love the new queen, new era, and I love that. Because, like, we're still seeing that, okay, Mermista's getting into this, but really her passion is still trolling Perfuma.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, Glimmer never really said specifically what she wanted. Right. She just didn't want to deal with the flowers herself.
Right, exactly.
And then Frosta busts up in the middle of them. "Stop fighting! You're ruining Glimmer's big day! Bouncer!"
And then,
you know, having the time of her life.
And then Bo runs in. Has anyone seen the lantern? And Swiftwind has it. And
on his horn.
And he has this whole plan, how he's going to, you know, he's going to present it to Queen Glimmer, and she's going to be all, "Swiftwind, why don't you sing the Coronation song you made up?" And then he starts singing it.
And he proceeds to start singing the song in an example of how it will be when he presents the lantern to Glimmer. And so Glimmer walks out just in time to take in all of this chaos.
Yeah, all these bitches are so messy.
Yeah. We've got Bo and Adora wrestling with singing Swiftwind, who's singing "Oh, Queen Glimmer." We've got these atrocious floral arrangements. We've got the melting WrestleMania ice sculptures. We've got frozen Seahawk, who can only move his eyeballs frantically. Back to the wrestling, singing idiots. Mermista, Perfuma, and Frosta all start arguing. And it ends with a 5-way split screen with Glimmer at the center, and we can only see her eyes. Trying to take in everyone who's demanding her attention. They do a really good job of this frantic build-up.
Yeah.
Of everyone just being like, "Glimmer, Glimmer, Glimmer, Glimmer."
It made me really anxious when I was watching it. I was like, oh my God, leave her alone.
It's really good.
Can't you see what she's going through, you people?
Yeah.
And, but, just as I'm about to yell it at this TV, Glimmer yells, "Everyone just stop." And then Glimmer's head falls right off the ice sculpture, just as they both crack.
Not Glimmer's real head. No.
The ice sculpture head.
Glimmer.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, Ice Glimmer's head falls off, and they both crack, right? Like, they...
Yes. One metaphorically and one literally. Yes.
And...
Yes, and Casta puts her hand on Glimmer's shoulder and says, "Glimmer, we will fix all of this." But of course, we know that this crap is not what Glimmer is actually upset about. So Glimmer just brushes her aside, ignores all of them, takes the sacred lantern from Swifty. With shoulders slumped, she walks away, saying, "Let's just get this over with."
Yep.
not how you want to start a quest.
Not really.
Ideally.
No, not really. And then we go to the Fright Zone.
Yes, back to our buddies in the Fright Zone.
And we have Scorpia going through... This is Entrapta's old lab, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's not super clear because all the rooms in the Fright Zone kind of look the same. But I think we can infer that this is probably Entrapta's old room.
So, we have Scorpia going through some stuff. And Catra's like, you heard Hordak. He wants all this, shit thrown out, right?
Yeah.
And
And Catra picks up one of Entrapta's old robot creatures. It looks like a little robot hamster.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
Oh, and Scorpia's like, Scorpia misses Entrapta and is like trying to like kind of reach out to her friend, and it was like,
yeah, and she frames this in the best way
really
possible.
Is. Hey, this was a heat of the moment decision, which I understand, right? Like,
I totally get it.
Total good faith on this too, right? Like, I know this was the heat of the moment, but I know you didn't really want Entrapta to stay there. I was thinking we could go get her.
I mean, she's our friend.
And Catra has already built her own narrative that she's going to tell everybody, whether or not she believes it, is that Entrapta betrayed us, which, we know she didn't, but...
Right.
And Catra knows it, and Scorpia knows it, but that's where she's going. That's her line.
Yep. And she squashes the cute little robot hamster in her hand. And Scorpia, unfortunately, even though she already did everything right when she asked about going to get Entrapta, because she validated Catra's feelings and mindset in the heat of the moment, when she made the decision, she doesn't blame her for anything that happened. And she sort of suggests that it can still be Catra's idea that they go get Entrapta now, and validates that all three of them are still friends.
Yeah.
Catra doesn't go for that. But so now Scorpia unfortunately says the one wrong thing when she says, but, Entrapta didn't betray us. She just wanted to save us from the portal.
Right.
And she was right. If Adora hadn't shut it down, she said the one. She said the one wrong word.
You don't say the A word.
Yeah,
you don't say the A word in front of Catra, and she freaks. And this is really like
throws Scorpia against the wall.
This is violent. Like, this is scary.
Yes.
Like, she throws her against the wall and pins her and has her claws right next to Scorpia's head. And we see Scorpia scared, as we should, because this is before Catra was all
traumatizing.
Yeah, and before Catra was all oh, you're goofy, but whatever. Shut up, you dork. But now this is Catra being straight up physically abusive. Just bad news. And then she says, keeps going through the byline, the byline here. Entrapta betrayed Hordak. And as for the portal, it left the rebellion in shambles. And that means it worked. Got it? Good.
And as she says that, she scrapes her claws down the wall next to Scorpia's head.
Yeah. And you see something that I noticed in this is it's not just the lines. When she puts her hand in the wall, there's cracks around her claws. She didn't only just kind of go in and scratch. She punched the wall.
No, yeah. She gouged
the wall.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then as soon as Scorpia nods, yes, boss, yes, boss.
Yeah.
Catra's tone immediately shifts back to being cool and in control. And she's like, good, now get this place cleared out. And she's gone. And then as soon as Catra's gone, Scorpia sets down her little bowl of metal scraps down next to a shadowy corner, kind of like you put out a bowl of milk for a scared stray kitten. And she says, it's okay, you can come out now.
And Emily's there.
It's Emily.
Oh, we love.
And Emily makes her cute little R2-D2 sounds. And Scorpia gets down on her knees so they're at eye level with each other, and she nuzzles Emily's face.
Yeah, and is
it's very cute.
I won't let anything happen to you.
So this is very heartwarming.
It is, and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Lots of hot.
Yeah,
lots of hot
both.
here. A lot of hot stuff here.
Yeah, a lot of hot.
A lot of hot. So,
wicked good hot.
Anything else in the Fright Zone before we bounce back?
Yes. I have one more thing. So I happened to be, this is not necessarily related to this scene, but I was paused at this moment when my roommate walked in. This is my cishet man roommate, who is actually wonderful. And he has seen all of She-Ra. So I was paused at this scene. I was taking notes when he walked in. And he told me this as if it was going to be a shocking revelation. He was like, did you know there's She-Ra porn? He's like, I stumbled across it totally by accident. I was not looking for it. Did you know there's porn of these characters? And I was like, yeah, buddy. He was like, there's porn of anything. I was like, oh yeah, I know. And he was like, it's not just the two main characters. It's all of them. Even the one with the purple hair. And I was like, yeah, man, I know.
Yeah. A listener.
He was very, very shocked.
Listeners, I know you cannot see me. I had to like physically remove myself from the microphone and put my hand in my head to laugh. Because I'm like, and like rub my face and I'm like, oh Lord, kind of way. So yes, we are deeply aware of this.
He was like super, super shocked.
I'm like, dude.
He was like, I was not looking for it.
Are you? I like that he emphasized that. I was not looking for this, but there are salacious images of cartoon lesbians. It's like, dude, have you?
He was like, I was just looking for regular porn. Like Batman porn.
It's like, I was looking for regular.
But his regular porn was, I mean, he doesn't judge anything, which is one of the reasons I love him. It's all values neutral. But he was like, I was just looking for Batman porn.
I love. So it wasn't weird. So he didn't think it was weird that like it was like fictional character, possibly animated porn.
He was just
surprised that there was She-Ra porn.
He was just surprised that it existed. He wasn't like upset by it. He was just like, wow, how unexpected. Like, how genuinely unexpected.
Like I expect it for Batman, but for She-Ra?
Right. Because there's such a big audience. You know?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, like, yeah, dude.
And I was like, yeah buddy.
There's a little.
So there we are.
So I learned I learned something new today, Jenny. I did not learn anything new from that.
No. But,
you know. I love that.
Some straight people might have.
Yeah, that's great.
So with that, we can go back to Bright Moon.
Let's go back to Bright Moon. Oh, I don't even know how to transition from that.
Well, I'll start us off while you gather yourself. So, and this is a great transition, speaking of the sexy stuff. So now we are back in Bright Moon and we're standing at the base of the Bright Moon waterfall, which we have never been close to before. And from this perspective, it's fucking huge. It's just this wall of luminescent water that's obscuring the entrance to this cave. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we've got Castaspella on one side, holding the sacred scroll, and Bo and Adora on the other side, and they're in their prom clothes because they each only have one everyday outfit and one fancy outfit.
Which I kind of love. Like, a lot of people do only have one fancy outfit, and also Bo's fancy outfit has since been repaired.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, I kind of wouldn't mind having only two outfits to deal with.
I mean, I like outfits, but
I'd be okay with that. Yeah. As long as they were both comfortable.
Yeah.
And Glimmer ascends the stairway in her queenly regalia, looking sad. Mm-hmm. She's not in the spirit of this thing, as all her beloved friends look on. And the robe that she's wearing now is like 10% of the original fabric.
And she looks fantastic.
But it does look good on her.
She looks great.
She looks great. And Castaspella starts reading from the scroll, as upbeat, official, and ceremonial as she can be, while appropriate music plays in the background. Yep. We are gathered here today to witness the crowning of Queen Glimmer of Bright Moon as she completes the quest of queens and begins her reign as our new leader. She will be accompanied by two witnesses, Master Archer Bo and Adora, She-Ra, Princess of Power.
I love when they get to use their titles.
Yeah, and it just reinforces the fact that She-Ra is a title.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, She-Ra is not her name.
It's a mantle. It's a title. Yeah.
Yes. And at this point,
Jenny, I'm so glad that you wrote about this.
This is my gayest moment. Mermista steps forward to part the curtain of the waterfall. Yep. And basically, she just turns it into a giant water vagina.
Yes.
Like, this cannot be an accident. No. Oh my fucking God.
Especially with the arch.
Yeah. I mean, those are giant labia.
And there's the arch and the little button.
It's the most vaginal looking thing I've ever seen. Move aside, Georgia O'Keeffe.
Right. But I mean, also it makes sense because, she's the queen. She's like kind of reverse birth, right? Like,
sure. She's going
back in the womb.
Into the tunnel.
So she can
through the vagina into the tunnel.
So she can be reborn.
Yes.
Right. But
yes. But I mean, even without any of that, just watching that curtain part, I was like, oh, that's a vagina.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hello, water.
I
vagina.
definitely. I also have that. Yes.
So that's my gayest moment for this episode.
I think that's a good gayest moment, especially because Bright Moon is already like very much like, moon goddess. Like,
yes,
water.
It's very yonic. The whole kingdom is very yonic. Yes. And so the last line of Castaspella's speech is, "Let the light guide you and go forth in peace and safety to emerge as Queen of Bright."
Aww. I like that.
So the Breast Friend Squad walks into the cave entrance.
And quests.
Yes, the vagina waterfall closes behind them, and suddenly they are quite alone after all of that hubbub.
Yeah. And
quest.
And of course, Adora is trying to break the silence. So quests. Yeah, we're good at quests.
Yeah, she's again maniacally upbeat.
Yeah, and Glimmer is just like, Glimmer's done. Can we stop this? I don't want to think about flowers or colors or stupid decisions. And we're bad at quests.
Yeah, she's just not in the mood, and she's not in the mood to pretend anymore. She's been having to keep it together and pretend to be fine all day for all of these people, and she's not in the mood to perform emotions anymore. For just her two best friends.
I don't blame her. Like,
no, me either. Not at all. So she stomps off, and Bo and Adora share a yikes glance with each other, and they follow after her.
And then Bo is like, wow, I can't believe these tunnels have been underneath our feet.
So there's a little bit of a time lapse between that and then, like, we still like deeper into the caves.
Right. Yeah. And the caves kind of look like the caves in the secret tunnel from Avatar.
Yes.
I got that. Like,
Yes, the caves underneath Omashu.
Yeah.
Yes. I did not think of that, but you're right, because they have the glowing crystals in the ceiling.
Yeah.
Oh man, now that you've sung, that's going to be in my head for days now.
So there's I'll put a link to it. We'll put a link to it in the show notes, but there's this really awesome lo-fi, like chill beats version of the secret tunnel song from Avatar.
Yes, please put that in the show notes.
And it's like really good. So we'll put that in the show.
It's one of my favorite episodes.
Mine too. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful episode.
And of course, there's like the singing hippies. And it's a blast. I love that one. So
yeah, it's a great secret tunnel through the mountain. secret tunnel. Sorry. You don't sing it once through, then it eats your brain.
So I'll put a link in the show notes for that one.
Yes. Okay, so they're walking along. Bo, as you just said, makes a very innocent remark. Wow, I can't believe these tunnels been right under our feet all this time.
And Dora's like, how deep do you think they go? Right? They're just like trying to
they're just having a casual conversation, trying to pass the time. And Glimmer just snaps and yells at them, "What's with you guys? Stop acting like this."
Which, like, yes.
They have no idea what she's talking about because they're not acting like anything.
Right. They're just doing, like this.
They're just doing the thing.
And Glimmer's like, you mean like whatever, like none of this even matters.
None of this even matters. And she throws the sacred lantern down the tunnel. And this causes them to realize that they are almost at their destination because they can see the light from the lantern that has been thrown just a little bit further down. They're like, oh wait, what's that?
But this is also where we finally hear Glimmer's voice. Like, we hear where, like, what her needs are, because we barely hear Glimmer throughout this. It's everybody talking like to Glimmer and Glimmer. And now this is Glimmer talking to people, not at people or around people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because none of this does matter to her.
No, it doesn't.
All of these little details are meaningless.
They're meaningless.
They're not going to affect the fact that she's queen now and her mom is gone.
Right. Yeah.
So, they see the light. They see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Hey.
They rush on. And Bo, says pretty obvious thing. I think this is the Chamber of Queens.
Yep.
Yeah, you think?
Good job, Bo.
Yeah, or it could just be another lavishly decorated room in the middle of a giant cavern.
It could have been the Chamber of Misdirects. We don't know.
Oh, snap. That's good.
Also, I just want to kind of throw this in, which I hadn't mentioned before, but the Quest of the Queen and the Chamber of Queens all sound like competitions on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Nice.
So that's just it just sounds like something like that would be on RuPaul's Drag Race. Anyway, so.
Yeah, I like it. So they look around their beautiful room, and Bo says that altar, I read about that in the scroll. I think it's for the lantern.
Oh.
And I think he's right, because there is a nice little hole in that altar that looks like it is the exact right size to pop that little lantern right in there. It is a
lantern-shaped hole.
Mm-hmm. But as they approach, a giant creature falls from the ceiling.
A giant one-eyed snake. They're being attacked by a one-eyed snake in the womb of the queen. Guys, come on.
Neff, I don't know how to say this delicately, but even one of the biggest lesbians in town, even I know that one-eyed snake is a euphemism for a penis.
Yeah. No, and this is...
And they are, as you said, in the womb of
Bright Moon, and this one-eyed snake is
there to keep them out.
It's there to... Guys, folks, writers...
I know.
We get it. Okay. Rebirth. Got it.
Yeah. Although, I will say that it does have some cute little, fins or flippers going on. So, it's kind of cute, but it is what it is.
And it has teeth. Probably should have mentioned that part.
It has a lot of teeth. And unfortunately, it does seem like it wants to eat them.
Yeah.
So they run real quick back out into the tunnel.
Yep.
And now they are in their normal quest mode, where they can no longer deal with any existential crises. They have to deal with what is right in front of them.
Exactly. That is something that happens.
They are actually good at this part.
Good. They always have to process before they win the battle. They have to have their emotional processing moment, and so they do.
Yes. Adora says the scroll didn't mention a giant angry monster living in the tunnels under Bright Moon.
And Bo was like, well, it might have mentioned some side of Bright Moon Guardian that we have to subdue. And Bo was like, it was defensive, but it was confusingly worded.
Yes.
And then we learn here that Glimmer can't teleport.
Yes. Glimmer finally breaks down and admits she can't teleport them because she has not been recharging her powers.
Yep. And this part.
And she's... Yeah.
This part, destroyed me.
Yeah, she starts crying, and she says, recharging would mean taking the Moonstone's full power for myself. It would mean admitting she's really gone. Mm-hmm. Everyone is already acting like she doesn't matter. It's like no one remembers her. No one cares. We're having a coronation because she's gone, and everyone is acting like it's a fun party, and it's not.
Yeah.
So now we finally get to hear what Glimmer's experience has been of everyone else trying to act upbeat and cheerful for her sake.
Right. When she's like, I need to mourn. She hasn't had space to mourn.
She hasn't had space or permission.
Yeah.
Everyone's acting like saying the word Angella or saying your mother is forbidden.
Right.
Because that would make her sad somehow. She's not already sad.
Right. Exactly.
So in that moment of Glimmer finally breaking down and admitting how she feels and saying, everyone's acting like a fun party and it's not, Adora starts crying and hugs her and says, of course it's not. And so this is the moment that Glimmer has needed. And this is what's helping her and healing her. They're both crying and they're hugging. They're grieving together.
And Adora, so I find this part interesting, is they're grieving together. And Adora says, I was supposed to take care of you. It was the last thing she asked me to do. I wanted to make today perfect. But Angella actually said you need to take care of each other.
That's right.
So this is Adora doing the I need to make everything perfect. I need to fix everything. I need to take care of everything. When it was really about taking care of each other.
That's right.
So.
And she also says I just thought talking about her, it hurts.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even though Adora certainly has been through plenty of trauma, we don't know if she's ever experienced loss like this because she never had parents to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
So this experience is new to her.
This type of grief is new to her.
And she just doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. So she does what she knows how to do.
Right. Like sometimes, you know, your intuition can tell you the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's like, oh, I thought it would make it worse to talk about her. But, you know, the truth is you have to take your lead from the person who you're trying to be there for.
Right.
And she never asked Glimmer, how can I be here for you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? She just assumed, you know, keeping things light is the way to go. I'm going to keep you from feeling pain somehow.
Right.
And the truth is you cannot stop people from feeling pain.
Right. Yeah. You can't control other people's emotions.
Right. But all you can do is, you know, be a loving, nurturing presence so that people can feel safe to process their pain.
Yeah. And I like that Bo is like finally here being vulnerable Bo and saying we don't know what to do. Like, and this is really good. This is so healthy.
Yeah. They're finally being real with each other.
Yeah.
Instead of all of them doing and saying what they think they are supposed to do and say, they're just being real with each other, which is what friendship is all about.
Right. And, you know, Glimmer doesn't know. Nobody knows, but they'll figure it out together.
Glimmer says, I don't know either, but maybe we can still figure it out together.
Aww.
And Adora says, whatever path you choose will always be there right beside you. And then this is very critical. The next part, Glimmer is still crying, but she's smiling.
Yeah.
As she continues on. She says, even if that path leads to a giant crystal monster, and like what she says doesn't even matter. The point is, as she goes on, she's still crying, but she's smiling.
Right.
You have to be able to cry. Crying isn't always bad. It's like, oh no, I want you to stop crying. Like that's not how to make, you know, the goal can't always be, I'm going to make you feel better, therefore I have to make you stop crying.
Right.
You know, it's like, it's healthy.
Yeah.
It's like if you have, you know, grief inside you, you have to let it out. If you repress things, they won't ever leave.
Yeah. Yeah. I got nothing else to add to that. I am emotionally damaged, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we all are. And it's not, you know, I don't think grief ever is gone. It's not like you're going to wake up one day and be like, oh, I processed all my grief and now it's gone.
No, grief is never gone.
But, you know, scars, and the same way that like scars heal, and that doesn't mean that they're gone. Like, you know, if you have a wound, a physical wound, and it heals, you are still going to have a scar. But that doesn't mean that it's not healed in a meaningful way.
Right.
And you can grow around your grief.
Yeah.
And, you know, I still think about my mom practically every day. And most of the time, I feel good when I think about her. Every once in a while, of course, you get sort of bowled over by a sharp pang of grief. And I think that's natural. But I'm happier thinking about her than not thinking about her.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That.
Yeah, my mom would be so psyched that we're making this podcast.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm sure that, you know, on some plane of existence somewhere, she is cheering the loudest out of all of the heavenly choruses. They're like, hey, that's my kid making that awesome gay podcast.
Oh, see, now I'm actually crying.
Yeah, that's
Jenny,
okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's cool to have parents who empower you in that way, to know that, you know, just being happy is the most important thing and that's all that they want.
Yeah.
It makes you feel really good.
Yeah.
And that's all that Angella really wanted for Glimmer.
It is. And, you know, we learned that. You know, we have our battle. You know, we have our best friend squad going into battle. They're great at quests.
Yeah. They are ready now. Now that they are really on the same page with each other, they are ready to go back into the path of a giant crystal monster.
And so they get in there. They fight that monster. Adora's punching it.
Yes, they are revivified. Adora shears up.
She-Ra punches it. She punches the dick in the dick.
Bo's got his sticky arrows.
Bo's shooting goo at the dick.
Yep. And then the sword of protection is transformed into a net.
The net of protection.
The net of protection. And at this point, I am so sorry. And I can't even blame this on my roommate because I had this thought way before. It was watching this episode, but not on this most recent watch. I was like, wow, she can really transform that sword into anything. There's probably a whole subset of fanfics where she just turns it into like every single type of sex toy.
This is the part where in the conversation, listeners, you cannot see this, but I just kind of stare at Jenny and blink.
I'm sorry. I wish I could blame it on my roommate.
No.
But I had this thought way earlier.
No, this was the...
I didn't go into great detail.
No. This is not the blink of embarrassment. This is the blink of, yes, I'm deeply familiar.
Duh.
Yeah.
Like, yes, dear.
Yes,
Pat.
Yes, I am.
Yes, we all know.
I am familiar.
Yes. The strap-on of protection. You know, the double-ended dildo of protection.
I'll send you some links. So yeah. We all know. We all know that we know that we know. Yes.
Anyway, so the giant one-eyed snake finally gets past both She-Ra and Bo, going for Glimmer just as she's getting up to the altar, but she does not run away. Instead, Glimmer queens up and stands her ground.
And says, "I am Queen Glimmer of Bright Moon." I love it.
And you will leave my friends alone.
And then she plugs in.
Yep.
And then she turns into an angel. Her wings grow.
Yes.
Her wings are formed. Yes. She looks like that. She looks like Avatar Glimmer.
Yeah. She has her moment.
Yeah, she's in her like Avatar state.
Brilliant light fills the cavern. And then we have a momentary switch to Bright Moon exterior. We see the Moonstone is also supercharged. It's letting off way more light than usual. You know, it's like glowing in every direction. It's like refracting the light.
Mm-hmm.
It's Avatar Moonstone.
Yeah, Avatar Moonstone. Maybe. Yeah.
And then we go back inside the cavern, and the air is now full of these little purple puffs of magic. Mm-hmm. And it's like what we see on Planet Krytus in season 5.
Yeah.
The little magic pollen puffs that make Catra sneeze.
Aww.
And now finally the beast is subdued and it recognizes Glimmer as its rightful leader. Mm-hmm. And a bunch of the little magical pollen puffs go into Glimmer. Mm-hmm. And then she lights up and lifts off the ground. And, you know, she has, as you said, her magical wing transformation, wing christening.
Yep.
She, you know, her queenly moment.
Her queenly angelic moment. Yep.
Yes. And she also gets her new crown in that moment, which is very chic and modest.
It's cool.
And it has that little teardrop jewel that matches her earring. And Bo, Adora, and the Beastie are all there to bear witness. Mm-hmm. And the Beastie is actually really cute now that it's not trying to attack them. Something about the shape of its mouth and the little tufty ears and the puppy dog head cock.
Yeah, it
kind of like it. And it's a brighter shade of purple now than it was before. It's, you know, more chromatic. It was kind of a dull, mauve-y, kind of muddy purple before, and now it's like purple.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of looked like all of like the first onesie kind of monsters that they fought, right? Like
yeah.
So,
I mean, it probably is. I mean, it could be. Yeah, it could be.
Well,
interesting. Yeah. Was Bright Moon founded by the first ones?
Well, we don't.
Or if not founded, was this monster put there somewhere along the way by the first ones? Interesting. Or were those monsters always there and they were just co-opted by the first ones?
All sorts of interesting things.
No way to know. Anyway, so Glimmer touches back down to the ground, having been queenified, and then we hear from off screen Angella's voice.
And this is
saying Glimmer.
This is when I sob. I was literally
this is when we all
I was sobbing on my couch.
Of course. I don't know how anyone could watch this and not shed a tear. So Glimmer turns and sees that it's a hologram of her mom, standing right above the spot where she stuck the sacred lantern. And Glimmer approaches it. She says, Mom? And the Angella hologram says, Glimmer, you're walking in the footsteps of all those who have come before us. Now, my darling, it's your turn. And Glimmer reaches out for her mom's hand, but it just passes through the hologram. So just final confirmation that this is definitely a hologram.
And it's very much like when Adora reaches out to Mara, too. Like, there's like a lot of like reaching out and passing through, you know, stuff.
Yeah, trying to make a human connection.
Yeah.
So speech continues. You know, Glimmer was just trying to hold the hand. And Glimmer's crying. And the Angella hologram says, I wish I didn't have to leave you, but I know you will be all right because you are Glimmer and you are so, so strong. And at that point, Adora takes one of Glimmer's hands, and Glimmer looks up and sees that her two best friends are standing at her side, and they're smiling at her, and they're supporting her.
Aww.
And Angella's last line is, I've done my best to prepare you to rule, but you are always ready to lead. I'm so proud of you, Glimmer. I love you.
I'm crying again.
Yeah, we all are. The Angella hologram swirls down into a little ball of light. It looks the same as all the other little magic pollen puffs, and it just floats up to join all the other little pollen puffs in the air. It's sort of like it's going up into the stars, and Glimmer watches it go and says, I love you too, Mom.
And Glimmer has closure.
Yeah.
Like, Glimmer didn't have, there's something to be said about, like, grieving somebody when you never had closure, like a sudden death.
Oh yeah.
Like,
and when you didn't get to say goodbye.
Yeah, or the last time you saw each other or said goodbye, it was like, it was hard. It was like not like a happy parting. And that type of closure, like,
yeah, closure is a huge, huge deal.
Yeah.
And I am incredibly grateful that I got to have that. My mom was in hospice. Yeah. I got to say goodbye, and I'm so grateful that it was before the pandemic started.
Yeah.
She died in the fall of 2019. I got to be with her in the hospice. I got to be focused on her. It wasn't the middle of a global health crisis, and I got to be with her. When COVID hit and people were dying alone in the hospital and were not allowed to have visitors, I thought about it constantly.
Yeah.
How utterly destroyed I would have been if I hadn't got to be with her when she was dying and when she died. I would have been destroyed. I would never be okay again. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. I do think closure makes a big, big difference. And in the time since then, I've seen a lot of people, if they lose a parent or if someone loses a parent in the community and people say, oh, every death is sudden, there's no real closure. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. I had closure and it made a huge difference for me.
So I have experienced this kind of sudden, like actual sudden, the phone call death before.
Yeah.
With somebody I was very, very close to. And I wish I got closure. And Glimmer's really blessed here. This is wonderful.
It is wonderful.
So, and, Glimmer had her friends with her, and it's just, her friends are there, and
she got to say goodbye in a meaningful way.
And Bo figures out how to say Your Majesty. Because Glimmer is a queen now.
Yep.
So, damn, Bo.
Yep.
You got it. You figured out how to make it work in your mouth. So
yep, he really tied up that moment perfectly.
And Glimmer's like, as long as you two are with me, Bo says, "Are you okay?" And Glimmer says, "As long as you two are with me, I am." And of course, that's setting up the rest of the
And then she can teleport them all out of there.
Yeah, but of course we know the season ahead is the, fracturing of the best friend squad season.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's rough.
It's rough.
But we don't have to worry about that right now.
No, right now we just have to worry. We don't have to worry. Right now we get to actually go to a party.
Yes.
And
let's go to the
Let's go to the coronation. Let's go to the coronation. Let's go to the speech. We're at the speech. And Glimmer shows up and everybody's worked out their differences and isn't messy anymore.
Yep. She looks around. She takes in all of these beautiful decorations that now look perfect, centering on a giant ice sculpture of Glimmer and Angella holding hands over the entryway to the courtyard.
Good job, Frosta.
Yeah, and she cries when she sees it, but again, like this is
good crying.
Good tears. Yeah. And she says it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, Frosta and Perfuma and Mermista, who are kind of like the Three Stooges at this point, they all appear in their fancy clothes, looking great, not fighting.
Yeah, I love, more and more.
All their little updos.
Every time, except for Perfuma, who has the beautiful, flowing loose hair. Every time I see Perfuma in her formal wear with her hair down, I appreciate it more and more. It's just so pretty.
Yeah, they all look great. Frosta says, we wanted it to be perfect for you. And Perfuma says, so we worked together to finish.
See, so that's the other thing.
Mermista says that was my idea.
Of course. But
of course it was.
But once again, we learned the lesson of if we work together, we can win in the end.
Yes, exactly. And then Aunt Casta says, Glimmer, it's time. And now finally she is ready for this.
She takes her place on the throne.
Yes. Bo and Adora walk up on either side of her. She smiles at them. We've got beautiful anticipatory music as Glimmer approaches the throne. And we've got this great POV shot where we are Glimmer walking through this row of all of our friends smiling at us as we walk towards the throne.
It's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. And then Glimmer gives her first speech as queen.
Yep.
And it's all about Angella. So again, try to imagine what this scene would be like if everyone was still playing the Don't Mention Angella game.
That would have been really awkward.
It would have been awful.
But everybody kind of processed their shit. And Glimmer, Glimmer holds it up. Glimmer's a queen and she knows what she has to do. She said, I'm here because of Angella.
Mm-hmm. She says, I'm here today because Queen Angella, my mother, sacrificed herself to save Etheria. We can't let her bravery be in vain. But there's so much we still need to do. Hordak is still in power, and we know there's an even larger Horde army out there somewhere. We can't let them win. It's time for us to take back our home.
Yay.
Together we will push out the Horde once and for all.
Yay. Yay. Woo.
And as everyone is cheering, Glimmer is looking up at the ice sculpture of her mom.
Yeah. Aww. And then we have Glimmer as a queen. Glimmer takes her place.
Yeah, so it's a perfect moment.
Yeah.
Glimmer has gotten her wings and her throne.
Yep. And
so now it's perfect time to flip back over to the Fright Zone.
Yay! Fright Zone. Gayest moment.
Time for a little parallel moment.
And this is my gayest moment.
Yeah, this is pretty hard to top. We've got Hordak approaching his throne.
Right.
And he finds someone lounging in his throne. Obviously, it's Catra. And she's purring.
Yeah.
She's purring while she's lounging in this throne. And she says, hey, Hordak, in the same voice that she usually reserves for hey, Adora.
Yeah.
Which I don't think she's ever said that for anyone else.
No. But we need to say that she is lounging in this throne when he walks up.
Yes. And fully lounging.
And so that is my gayest moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Here's why. So Catra in the throne. Well, Catra in the throne in general is my gayest moment. It's just overall a gay moment.
Yeah.
But
it's hot.
This particular part is my gayest part of this gay moment because one, Catra on a throne is always gay. Right?
Yes.
And
obviously.
as our buddy TK pointed out in our Once Upon a Time in the Waste episode, gays can't sit right.
True.
And she is like full on, like not sitting in a chair properly.
That's true, because I had the end of this scene as my gayest moment, but we'll get there. They're both viable contenders.
Also, she's wearing a new outfit.
You
want to talk about her new outfit?
I'm
going to talk about Catra's new outfit because I love Catra's new outfit because it's wonderful. So, first off, we will start with her feet. Because, you start from the bottom up. So instead of wearing her little, like, ripped up legging pants, she has this, like, high thigh, like almost like thigh length tights with stirrups that kind of, like, go into this bodysuit, which kind of has a couple of, like, cutouts on the upper outside of her thighs. She's still wearing, Horde red and black. Her arms, and she kind of has this bodysuit that goes up and it's belted. It's sleeveless on one side. Funny, it's sleeveless on the right side, which is where Glimmer's glove is. She is wearing 2 gloves. The one on her right side goes up to her elbow, and, it's fingerless gloves. The one on her right side, that's the fun one. That's the one that mimics her corruption. So it's a full length. It's almost like I think it's part of it's actually like a sleeve or a sleeve that goes into it. So it goes all the way up her left arm into her bodysuit, which has a boob window. And on
Faith Lahane boob window.
This is some like Faith Lahane shit. And also on the bicep of her right arm is a red diamond. So
very nice.
Catra's new outfit. Quality outfit. I love season 4 Catra outfit. It's great.
It's very great. Good.
It's really gay too.
Yes. So here she is lounging in Hordak's throne. Yep. And she says, "Hey, Hordak." And Hordak is outraged.
What do you think you're doing?
What do you think you're doing?
And then she jumps on him.
She just yanks out some wires.
Yeah, and yanks.
And the lights go out. So advantage cat, because night vision.
And then she yanks out his glowing first one's brooch of love and friendship that powers his exoskeleton. And as
these red alarm lights are buzzing on and off dramatically.
Yeah. And he's like...
And he starts throwing a tantrum. Yep. How dare you, etc., etc. Yep. So satisfying to watch after the way he treated her.
Yeah, the whole fucking series so far. She gets the upper hand.
Yes. But as always, Catra is strategic. She's not trying to just defeat him outright. She's just trying to steer him onto a better course to get him to stop fucking around. Yep. And she's laughing and she says, "Hey, cheer up, boss. You said it yourself. Big bad Horde Prime got your signal. Don't you want to conquer Etheria before he gets here? He doesn't sound like the type to accept failure." And he's on the floor at her feet as she's saying this.
Yeah, because he tried to get up to, we'll end you. And then, zap collapsed.
His suit zapped him and he fell back down. Yeah, and so he says, "What do you want?" And then she sits back down in his throne and she says, "We're done with your little vanity projects. It's time to crush the rebellion for good. And you're going to help me do that." And then she drops his first one crystal back on the ground in front of him so he can, scramble for it. She's like, "I'm giving you back your power, you little bitch." And she says, "I think you and I are going to do great things together." And as she's saying her final lines, her upper body is framed by the red bat-like wings of the Horde logo that are painted on Hordak's throne. So now Catra is getting her wings and her throne.
Oh, shit.
And she's... Oh, you didn't pick up on that?
I didn't pick... I mean, I picked up on the parallel of Catra getting her throne, but I didn't pick up on the wings part. Oh. That's good.
Yeah, and so as she sits back with the wings flanking her and she crosses her legs and she's like, "I'm the queen of this castle now." That was my gayest moment because she's just like, power. I was like, yeah. So that was my gayest moment.
I love that.
But they're both good. So yeah, by the end of this episode, Glimmer and Catra both got their wings and their throne.
Damn. Yes. And there we go. Everybody's, all of our queens are coronated and set up for a wonderful parallel journey.
And like we got, in terms of visual representations, we got some very clear like angel wings and devil wings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little disappointed in myself that I didn't pick that up, but I am very happy and proud that you did. So
thank you. I am actually really surprised that you didn't. I thought I assumed that was one of your bullets, but I'm happy to be the visual arts
That's why
person.
we're a team, Jenny. That's why we're a team.
I could, you know, absolutely.
I wouldn't be able to, do this quest without you.
Same, friend.
See, that's what it's all about.
Same.
And
that's right.
And Jenny, what did we learn today?
We learned that friendship can be hard, but the most important part is to just be honest about your feels and trust that your friends can meet you there as long as you are honest.
Oh, that's a really good lesson.
Thank you.
Well, folks, if you liked what you heard and you want to join us on the Quest of Queens, you can like and follow us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast fix. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at HeyAdoraCast, or email us at heyadoracast@gmail.com. And in case you didn't know, we love when you write us reviews. So please write us reviews on any of the places that you can write us reviews. Say how handsome and smart we are and how, that's all I got. So say how wonderful we are.
Especially how smart we are. Yes, especially how much you enjoy listening so other people can find us and listen to us too.
Yeah, that makes other people find us, and then that makes everybody happy. So, also, Jenny, did you know that we had a Patreon?
I heard we had a Patreon.
You heard tell of this Patreon?
Yes. I've heard tell of such a place where the people can talk about all their fan theories and all of the fun things that they heard on the episode and want to dive deeper into with us, with each other. All things.
I heard that you get to do live watches and video hangouts.
I heard that too. We are due to schedule one of those.
We are. Jenny, I heard Princess Jenny has a story hour.
It's true. I read classic queer novels in Princess Jenny's story hour.
I love that. And those are only just a small amount of the wonderful perks that you, our patron, can receive. You can find a link to our Patreon, as well as a link to this week's Spotify playlist, The Coronation, in our show notes or at heyadora.gay.
All of the links to all of the things will always be at heyadora.gay.
Because we're .gay. And remember, queer joy is radical.
And queer love saves the universe. Quest of Queens. Bouncer.
Bouncer.